So let's go ahead and get started. So on this first question, in your opinion, what is the main idea or underlying value in the video clips? In other words, what value did you find in reviewing those video clips as they relate to sales? You don't remember? Did you watch the video clips?
Yeah.
Okay, what was one thing that you noticed about the video clips? What stuck out in your mind? Do you want to pass that to someone else that has a blue marker?
A red.
Is there anyone else with red? Hiding them? Hiding that cap. I would too. Can you answer? Could you start us off on answering this question?
Well, since they saved her cells, like I was wondering if they're still like adding up, or because they said they saved their some of her cells or something like that.
Okay. Does anyone remember what they did or how they did the cells? Yes.
Well, I know that the cells, they keep themselves alive outside the body, and the scientist, I forgot his name, he fed them chicken blood.
He fed them what?
Chicken blood, and then they kept them, the cells that were able to.
They kept on dying on him. Then he eventually found out Heredias lag cells.
They kept on dying on him?
Yeah.
Why did they die?
There was multiplying. There was like outside the body, so they died, and then he eventually found Henrietta's lag cells who keep growing even though they were outside the body.
Okay, what'd you say, Essence?
I said because they was multiplying, which means if they multiply, they're gonna continue to live.
Can everybody hear her?
Can anyone explain how these cells just kept multiplying?
Because it was a cancer cell.
Okay, so what does that mean?
That they spread fast and it just
grows.
multiplied.
It grows. Tell me about growing.
It just spreads throughout the body.
Maybe she had like a gene mutation that causes her cell not to die, and then just to keep growing and growing.
Okay, so when we look at the cell, and we're studying the cell and all the organelles and the components and the processes that goes on within these organelles, why doesn't all of our cells just keep growing?
Because it's dangerous for us.
Huh?
It's dangerous for us if they keep growing without any control.
Without any control. Tell us about a control. Do you know anything about controls on cells? Can you help us out? Someone tell us about controls within a cell.
The nucleus?
Huh?
The nucleus. The nucleus of a cell. That's what controls. Like
Neutrophils, did you say?
no, the nucleus.
Nucleus? Okay. So what's in the nucleus?
DNA.
What's in the nucleus?
Yeah, like you said.
DNA?
Yeah.
So tell me about the DNA.
It contains our genes.
Okay, and I appreciate all your input, but I'm going to kind of start moving to the colors again. Purple. Is yours purple?
Both of us is purple.
Great. So would one of y'all tell the group about DNA and what's in that DNA?
DNA is like passes like your features, your eye color, your hair color.
What is that called? Do you remember? Yes.
Genetic?
Or another word? Genes.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about these cells growing, right? So if you picture the cell that we've been looking at, and here's the DNA in the nucleus, what's different about Henrietta's cells from your cells that are normal? What's the difference? You've already said that the DNA contains the genes, their genetic material. What's different about that than the rest of the cells? All cells have the genetic material. What was unique about Henrietta's cells? Yes, sir.
Maybe because of her African descent, maybe she had something different in her genes.
Something in her genes? What could she have wrong with her genes that would cause this?
She married her cousin, right?
Huh?
She
She
married-
married her cousin.
Oh wow.
Could that have contributed? Could that have contributed to her cancer?
Yes.
Someone, I see some nods over there.
That's
How?
awesome.
How? Like, how would you say that would contribute to her cancer? I'm not saying you're wrong. This is just we're summarizing, kind of surmising things. How would that contribute to her cancer?
So I guess because she's like,
Speak up a little bit.
because she's in a relationship with her cousin, and like when they're with, because they have kind of the same genes or something, they're related to each other. So.
You would think that it would have to, like, it would do something too if they had like a baby. I wouldn't think that it would, like, affect her or affect the other person. That's possible.
That's a really say this again. Say what you just said again.
Would it- I would think that it would happen to their offspring, like their baby or something, not them.
Right, that's a good
But I
point.
mean, you are like passing, saliva and all that.
Yeah,
types of
but
stuff.
no big deal for the most part, right? Offspring, yeah, we're going to look at things a little differently, but we're talking about Henrietta. Her relationship or relationships with someone else, did that make a difference with her getting cancer? Or from a genetic standpoint, did her genes, just one moment, go ahead, I'm going to let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Because they have similar DNA, and also because of cervical cancer and how she could have contracted it from her cousin.
That's a good point. We're going to come back to that in just a second. In fact, let's go ahead and wrap that one up.
I have a question. So, if you have intimate relations with somebody, can they pass their DNA on to you in that manner?
Yes.
Makes you think about something, doesn't it?
Do they really transfer their DNA?
Doesn't saliva
Every-
have something to do with that? Like, I mean, your kissing.
That's a
all.
good point. But the question remains on the table. Yeah, good point there. The question remains on the table. If you swap spit with someone, kissing, does your DNA change?
No.
Okay, I've got a cold. I've had a cold. I'm finally getting over it. You know what I'm talking about. You've had that one too. Probably gave it to you.
Yeah.
One of y'all probably gave me mine. Did that change my DNA? No.
It definitely changed.
It affected it because I picked up a virus or a bacteria, right?
So,
But my DNA is still me. If I coughed or you got my cold, my DNA is not in you. The DNA from the cold might be, but that's all. So when we get back to this question here in this part on marrying a relative, did that really affect Henrietta?
How
She
many?
could have married her father, and it wouldn't have made any difference on the cervical cancer, would it?
So wouldn't it have to come from like the family bloodline?
So how did Henrietta get this cervical cancer?
Either from her father
Yeah.
or mother.
Or like generations down.
Yeah.
Some cancers are linked genetically. It just happens that cervical cancer is not.
For real?
Very for real. So if you were let's say you were a nun and had never had sexual relations with anyone, you're not going to get cancer of the cervix. Why?
Didn't you say that the male can, like, even if a female didn't have anything to do with like cervical cancer or any type of disease, it can come from a male?
It does
That
come
doesn't
from the
even know-
male.
That didn't even know that he had it.
Male does not exhibit any symptoms, but they pass it on to the female through sexual contact, and over time, it's a virus. Many scientists believe that viruses cause most of our cancers, along with food and contaminants and pollution, etc.
Which are caused by parasites.
Huh?
Which are called by parasites. It's called by
Yeah,
parasites.
parasites.
How do you all feel about that? You want to start that conversation?
Feel about like
What?
cancer, or like, or
what he just said, passing it on, parasites being
It makes you
transferred.
think about what you do, like, you know,
How you
carefully,
do.
yeah, or how you do something, or when you do something.
Yeah, just your action.
Yeah, I mean, with the food you eat, the things that you do throughout your daily life, your routine, the people you talk to, the people you associate with.
I expect everyone to participate throughout this little seminar. So if you
Yes.
haven't had a chance to speak up, I really do want you to, because that's important. What you think, the questions you have is important to the group.
Keep them.
Alexis, do you have anything to say about this? How do you feel? Well, you're gonna have to
You want to say it?
You're next.
Okay.
Rotate.
Yeah. Next. Give us some information. Give us some thought.
Ask a question.
I don't have any questions.
No questions? No burning questions?
So if you meet somebody that's really cute and you like them, it doesn't matter. Anything about him doesn't matter.
You don't know nothing about that person, or like what they do, or what they ate,
Or where they've been?
where they've been.
Does everybody, I mean, let's keep the conversation going.
How about you? Know the other person really well? I'm gonna lie to you though. You're my first girlfriend.
Oh.
You gonna believe that? No. In other words, do we, as you said, you really never know. And some people just never tell their secrets because that's what they are, secrets, right? What happens when you give a secret to someone?
They might
It passes
just tell
on.
somebody, some other people.
It's not a secret.
They have power over you. You gave them power over you, didn't you?
Yeah.
Think about it. Especially at your age, they use it against you.
Kind of like an extortion.
Well, kind of like that. It's not, extortion's not always for money. Maybe for favors, or it may be for a lot of different things. Hey, let me borrow your car. Man, I don't want to. Hey, you know what you told me the other day? Oh, man. Okay, that would be an example. Because you give up part of your power to someone else, so they have power over you. Continuing, what do you think? I'd like to come back to Henrietta, because this is really pretty cool. So I'm going to leave this with you, okay? I'm going to let you start this one. You're Henrietta's family. What do you think about what scientists did with her cells without telling her? What's your thoughts? Or what if you're today's Henrietta? We go to the doctor all the time. We have legs amputated. We have internal organs removed. We have blood drawn.
That they don't need all that blood they're drawing. And they need a little teeny bit. I've worked in a lab. It's a little teeny bit. They don't need that whole
Don't even
tube.
need a drop.
So why did they draw? Why did they draw them?
Okay, go ahead.
They should have asked her for like their permission to take
There you
them.
go.
So
Isn't that illegal though? Like, can't they get in trouble for that? That's what I'm thinking about. Like, don't they need to sign like some paper off saying that I give you permission to take this from
That's why you sign all those papers when you go and get a surgery and stuff, because you give them rights
Well,
to do.
you need to read it before you.
So then it's like, and that's a good point. So your appendix is getting ready to burst. And you're in a lot of pain. And you're going to die if they burst. I don't want to sign that. What are you going to do?
It's life or death.
You don't have it.
Where do I sign? Right?
Yeah.
You give away,
But I mean-
again, you give away
Power.
power.
But don't you like go to the doctor before like all this happens and you have time? Or like if I was in her situation, I would have had a family member or like someone who, my husband or anything like that. I would have them and me read over the papers before like any of this happened. I would probably have like a plan B, plan C, whatever.
Okay,
Just
so I'm going to ask you this. Think about the time in which this occurred. And then think about the fact that this individual was African American. Knowledge is power. How much knowledge do you think that Henrietta had about laws and using cells, etc.?
Not mine.
Probably, maybe none.
So they just set herself up to be honest. She set herself up.
Assistant jury.
She didn't set herself up, but the medical community, the scientific community said, she'll never know anyway. And it's possible they could have said, she's a black woman, who cares? We're talking about that time frame in American history.
Yeah. Didn't they change the name? Say it's like Mary Louise or something like that.
We come to school and we learn and we try to become educated and try to stay ahead of everything. This is what is the one thing I tell you that the real reason I like for you to be in here? To learn about yourself, because why?
So we know what to do in circumstances like
Because
that.
all of us are going to die. None of us are getting off this planet alive. The longer we live longer, the more we know about ourselves. In order to know about ourselves, we have to know a lot of other things. Remember I said yesterday, it's not important, it's not a big issue if you don't know every muscle in your body. But it is a big issue to know how they're supposed to work and how they work, so when something's not working right, then what's causing that? Is it just an anomaly? Just happened? Or is it something more radical? What do you think might be a good title for the collection of these videos? If you were going to title this for this audience, what do you think would be a good title? I know you watched them, so what do you think would be a collection of these videos? What do you think would be a good title? Can't be wrong.
The ones that we watched Tuesday.
Would you like to give it a shot? If I were going to use this next year, and I had a title, what would you give me the title to put up there? Because I plan to use this again.
I would say something petty.
Say,
I don't know, like why they did her wrong or something, or how they did her wrong, or what would they have done like better the situation instead of, I don't know, something.
so I'm going to go to a different direction with you. You're up next.
Following the truth.
I want to go to a different direction. So they did Henrietta wrong. There's no question about that. Was it all bad?
No.
They found
What good came out of this, do you think?
A lot of medical research and medical advances when it comes to like polio and other diseases like that.
And if you remember, I said polio was pretty much wiped off the face of the earth. At an expense. There was a cost. Because essentially they let Henrietta die.
Someone feels strongly about that.
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts? I can tell you really just, you gave up a sigh like, this is so unjust.
I mean, we basically just discussed it, but I just thought that was like kind of unfair, especially of her being like a African American woman, and then the way they like, cause they of course know with like they know about the law and all that extra stuff, and she's clueless and left in the dark and stuff like that. So after the fact that she died, they just did what they want with it.
I think there's pros and cons with it. A con would probably be, she died and everything, but there was good studies with it. It helped us a little bit with, cancer or whatever. They're still trying to find a cure, but it helped them, but it was also wrong for them to, treat her like a guinea pig, treat her like an animal.
Right.
And, yeah.
So Mike, I have a question about that. And I know there was good things as you mentioned. Does the end justify the means? Whether it's yes or no, explain. You're up next.
We're going to whip around this one. We're going to whip
We're
this
going to
around.
walk around this one. Does the ends having more cure and knowledge of cancer and cells, the good part, did that justify the way they did it? It's either yes or no, and why?
Well, I would say in a way it is, because it helped us. Her studies about
This is
herself.
your mom, by the way.
Okay, so that, I would,
Does that change something?
I would be, I would, probably say, okay, so I would feel proud of that, but it also will hurt me because nobody told me nothing about her. Oh, we're gonna do this to your mom or anything, but I will also, the way I would feel proud is that because of her, we have more information about cells and about cancers and how they behave sometimes.
So if I'm the research scientist and it's your mom, me doing this because there was, it's okay to say yes. I'm going to do this, and now you found out, okay, I don't like it, but that was worth it. Is that your answer? Or no, I don't want you to do it because this is my mom. Go find someone else. I mean, things to think about.
I would accept it, but you should have let me know first.
Did you notice something about this conversation as we're starting around?
What?
It's kind of like the abortion question.
It kind of is, yeah.
It really is, because me, I'm pro-life. But when it becomes me,
Yeah.
I may
It's
not be
different when
as
it's
pro-life
you.
as I thought I was, but as long as it's someone else, I can make that decision, right?
Yeah.
And as science moves forward at an unbelievably pace, you got some thinking and decisions to make as a society. What's your thoughts, Essence?
What the question you just asked?
What are your thoughts?
I feel that no, they shouldn't have just took her cells. They should have I don't know, asked her family.
It would have been okay not to have taken her cells and had this knowledge.
Huh?
It would have been okay not to have done this, then we wouldn't have had the knowledge. That would have been the right thing to do.
I feel
It
like
is your mom.
It's a yes and no. It's like yes and no. That's what it's like.
There's not a yes or no. You got to make a decision you got to make a decision on this.
I'm gonna say no.
It wasn't worth it? No. Okay. And that is perfectly fine.
That's cool.
Next. Or we've got a sleeper. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Does the ends justify the means in which this was done?
I wouldn't let it.
You say,
It's up to my mom. If she, that's up to her.
What if she didn't know?
She had no choice.
Then, no.
no. Okay. How about you?
No,
Why?
because I don't know. I would be like mad since they did it without her knowing, and
So it would be better off, they just didn't do it, and that way there wouldn't be a problem. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to know what you're thinking.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay. So the knowledge that was gained, I'm going to twist this a little bit. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So the knowledge that they gained from doing this without Henrietta's knowledge, knowledge that they gained saves your baby from death.
Why do they have to do her? Why do they have to use her though? Like, why couldn't they use like an animal or something? Like, take her cells and then
Convenience.
give it to an animal.
Convenience. And after all, humans are a little bit different than dogs, although not a great deal. When we look at the cells, there's very little difference. But the convenience. So now you're going to lose your first child to cancer because we said no to Henrietta, and Henrietta said no. We didn't actually do that. Should we have done it or not done it?
Well, if you put it like that,
Oh.
then yeah, because like you just say,
Heck with mom, she's already had her life. Let me have the baby hasn't had one. Is that what you're saying?
well, because you put it like that.
I put it like that. Okay, I twisted it, didn't I? What are your thoughts? You have an opinion. Okay, let me ask you this: it's your mother. Should they have done this or not?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, they should have.
No.
No, they shouldn't. Okay. You want to say why?
Because I don't want her something. I don't want her. They do her any hers up in this.
Okay. What's your thoughts? No?
Because they at least could have tried to at least try to save her, and still, could have had cells that they've already.
I like this thought. Now, understanding is still an emerging skill set to harvest cells and study them at the time of Henrietta. But I like your thinking on this. Why couldn't they have harvested some of those cells and still treated her? I don't know if we'll know that.
Because they thought she was nothing.
Huh?
They thought she was nothing. Like, it wasn't a big deal that she was going to die.
The
Because she
time
was
period.
black and she was a woman.
And
So
she had
that's why
cancer.
they-
Well, I think that's a good
probably
point.
why they didn't
I'm
do
going
it.
to get to you too here.
Doesn't the
I think that's two
is
good
the
points.
Constitution, the 3/5 of a human being, isn't that in the Constitution?
What's that?
Wasn't that at that time?
What, the
3/5 of a human being.
Because back then, they just, they
Yeah, women couldn't vote until the 19th Amendment. Blacks could
Blacks
vote
were considered
before women could.
3/5.
So she had two strikes. She was a woman and she was of color.
And they thought they were animals back then. Didn't really care.
What are your thoughts?
Well, me?
Yeah, it's you.
And
Mama, what are we going to do?
moms didn't know that they was gonna take any of it.
Right.
I go with no, cause like it's like a 50-50 question. Yeah, it's good that they took the cells for the greater good, but then again, I do feel like it's unfair, cause like without the woman's knowledge, at least, like could have been like, hey, if you don't make it out of this, we're gonna take some cells from you. But at the time period, I do understand because they don't really
Didn't make it right, though,
Yeah,
did it?
they didn't make it right.
I think the best point that was made was yours. Why couldn't they have harvested some cells? What they wanted to do, because they were having trouble, I think that was you, Jose, that mentioned that the cells were dying, or maybe it was Essence 182. So they wanted to make sure they had plenty of them, didn't they? And this cancer was spreading, so there was plenty of cells. They knew that these cells were just eating up her body and she was going to die.
In the video, it mentions that whenever they did the autopsy on her and they opened up her body, you could see like a bunch of tumors all over her
Masses,
body.
yeah. You get like little nodules on the outside, like on the intestine, on the outside, and even on the inside and on the organs. It's kind of like bumps. Is what it appears like. And when you in those days, that's what they used to call exploratory surgery. So I'm giving you a little history. They used to open the person up to try to figure out what was wrong with them. If they had cancer, when you open that person up, those cells spread everywhere. So if you got opened up and you had cancer, they would sew you back up and say, sorry, you don't have much time. Excuse me, just one moment, please. Weble. Yes. Yes, what room is that? 204B. Okay. What'd she say? 204B. Ortega. Was that the name? I forgot what she said.
Call her again.
What's happened to Dr. Weible's neurons? We'll
Neurons.
get into
It's
that
his-
when we get into
it's
the
his-
brain.
It's his soda.
And his hippocampus.
Well, no, I was thinking about two different things here.
I have a question.
She's going to think I'm crazy.
So you're at the hospital and they give you, you know how they give you all these papers to sign. What could you do? What could you do to stop them from taking your cells and still have an operation?
Yes.
What do you think you could do? What do you think you have the right to do?
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Ask questions.
What could you do to the actual documents?
Sign some and don't sign some other ones.
Okay.
Read through them, or at least get somebody who can explain them to you.
And what if it's something in there you don't like? What could you do?
Send them out, or try to find out.
Say it.
Change them.
Sure enough. Cross this out. Anything that belongs to me stays inside my body, or nobody can use it without my permission. You can write that. You have a right to do that. People don't know that, though. And people don't read. I think there was this, was it a Simpson thing, or it was the Simpsons or South Park or something where the kids weren't reading the thing and they came and took their parents away. It was they were buying video games or something, and they didn't read the instructions, and it said something about taking your parents, and so they came and they took their parents away, took all the stuff out the house because they didn't. You didn't read, you know. It was kind of making fun of the fact that we don't read.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was up there.
So, anybody have anything they want to start talking about, or thoughts that they want to talk about that they had rolling around in their mind?
Yeah, Diego. Down to Miss 204B.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was wondering, so can certain cancers, like cervical cancer that can be contracted from other people, can't those be like STDs?
You're going down to see Miss Eden.
Okay, so
204B.
what do you all think? Anybody have an answer for him?
I won't be here tomorrow.
Well, can cancer that can be transmitted from a person to person, isn't that basically an STD?
Or can cancer be
Like a start of cancer?
No, like giving the actual disease to another person, like with cervical cancer, for example.
Oh.
What do you all think? You got a response for him? He's saying, can a cancer that can be transmitted, like cervical cancer, which is transmitted by men through a parasite, okay, they don't even know they have, can that be considered a STD?
They don't have anything for that? Like,
No, there is a vaccine that was developed 3 or 4 years ago, and it's suggested that young people, and I'm talking about 14, 15-year-olds, before they start becoming sexually active, or if you've already become sexually active, to get that as soon as you can. Now, if you don't believe me, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Go on the internet and find out who's the youngest girl to have a complete hysterectomy for cervical cancer. She's younger than all of you in here.
they can't get in trouble for that? I mean, like how he's saying that it can get passed on, like, from a male, right? The cancer?
The male doesn't know it. It's not the cancer, it's the virus.
But if he had STD, he knows it, so he can get in trouble for it.
It's not-
But
You
he
get in
Not
trouble for it,
necessarily.
so what?
It's not an STD though.
And
Right.
it's not ST, it's like herpes. What's the rate of herpes at your age group? Does anyone know?
Don't know.
Through the roof.
I'm going to say I think I know. I think that it's about 30%. You can find out and let me know tomorrow. But it's nearly 30% of your age group has herpes. I'm being serious. There's no lesion. You don't notice it, but you can still infect someone else. There is no cure for herpes. It's a virus. There's no cure for any virus,
I
including
don't
the
agree.
common cold.
How many people agree that there's no cure? Or is that just Big Pharma telling you that?
They gave up.
How magic
They
is
don't.
it?
Hmm?
With
What does
HIV
herpes do to you?
Really, it doesn't do anything. It just makes painful lesions and breakouts around your lips, your genitalia.
Cold sores are herpes, and then there's genital herpes.
There's 2 different types of herpes.
It
One,
can make
cold
you sick,
sores,
yeah.
and genital herpes. Okay? So how do you think it goes from here to there? You can probably figure this out on your own. I'm being serious. I'm being totally serious, guys. And herpes lives in your spinal cord. And then it comes out when you get stressed out and breaks out. And then you take treatments and stuff, and it kind of goes back, and then you get stressed out again. Maybe it's getting ready to get married. Big stressful time. Then you have a big breakout because of the stress. Kind of nice, isn't it? It happens. What you do, I think what you said, what you do is important. What you don't do is probably more important. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I mean, man's been on this earth for a long, long time.
I feel like people just try to push that away. I mean, the young group. Because, I mean, a lot of adults talk about it and stuff, but we don't really, like, want to face it as reality.
Because it won't happen to you, you're invincible.
We think that it's not going to happen to us, but it can happen to us.
You don't want to have a hysterectomy at 14, 15 years old because you were sexually active. What did I tell you the other day? Get a pap smear if you're sexually active. That's between you and your doctor, not between your mom and your doctor and you. That's a private thing. But you need to get one every year, because sometimes that cervical cancer can be very, very fast and it's spreading. So that's why they say every year. It's an annual checkup. Okay, what the doctor does is goes up and takes a little scraping, not like a knife or anything, but a little scraping of the cells of the cervix. And then they send it off and a computer looks at it. People used to look at it under the microscope. Computers do this now. And they see an anomaly, it gets flagged. And then the doctor will go in and take another scraping and do a further examination. If you're not sexually active, you don't need one. The only way you can get cervical cancer? Virus. Transferred from someone else. So getting back to Henrietta, there's a lot of good things that came from this. Hopefully,
Dr. Weble,
we've come a long ways.
do you all think that that's the only way you can get cervical cancer, or do you think that lifestyle and other things have something to do with that?
Like the condom?
Hmm?
You just said lifestyle.
Lifestyle, like the food you eat, stuff like that, do you think that has something to do? Because it's not just that. There's other things that have been linked
The
to it.
likelihood is very minuscule.
I mean, the way you take care of yourself, the way you clean yourself.
Well, yeah, what about the food you eat? Because they've linked,
Yeah,
they've,
food, the
So
bacteria
women
stuff.
couldn't
We're not
get
cleaning
cervical
food, right?
cancer genetically just by themselves? Women couldn't get it? No?
Women can't get it, right?
Women couldn't get it genetically? If it was just only from a
No.
no.
Guys, this is a great audience. Before we leave, what did you
how,
think?
yeah, how'd you feel about this process? It was a little awkward to begin with, but what are your thoughts?
We should do more.
I understand it more.
You understand it more?
Yeah.
Yep.
So now when we look at the cell and we think about all these possibilities and we're looking at the DNA within the nucleus, we have a better understanding of what all that means, hopefully.
Yep.
All right, guys, I'll see you on Monday.